What's up, guys, and welcome to the NFL Week 18 player pool. We got a Sunday edition here, and it's a week where playoff motivations and bonus incentives for individual players are going to play a huge role in the players that we have in our player pool, and I'm going to get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at PumaCom here with Heatseeker Sports, and you're watching Player Pool. This is a special Week 18 edition of Player Pool. We got a lot of games that aren't going to matter this week, but we have a lot of games that have playoff implications, seeding implications, and we have a lot of players with salary incentives to do well today and hit certain marks with their yards or their receptions or their touchdowns. And we're going to get into all that. Before I do, make sure to hit the like button. I'm looking for 30 likes to put out my favorite plays in the comment section later on. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. You're going to want to subscribe. I got the game script for Detroit and Minnesota coming out later on. So you're going to want to be subscribed so you can sign up for alerts for when that comes out. And then all sorts of short videos for my favorite underdog pick'ems and stuff like that. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. Plus, I'm looking for 1,600 subscribers. I need about 90 to get there. So if you guys can help me out with getting there before the end of, hopefully the end of this week, that would be great. So I appreciate that. And let's get into it. All right, so going to be looking first at the seeding situation here. You can see the way I have it laid out right now. I got Green Bay over Chicago. I got the Colts-Jacksonville game. Doesn't matter for playoffs. Buffalo likely resting their starters, or they are resting their starters. So I got New England winning that game. If Buffalo wins, it doesn't really matter. So that game has zero implications for our playoff situation. New York versus Philadelphia, same thing. Doesn't matter if Philadelphia loses, they're resting their starters, but New York is, just pretty bad in general, but they do have some players with incentives this week. Tampa Bay versus the Saints. This is a huge game for playoff implications. If Tampa Bay loses, they could get knocked out of the playoffs. So Tampa Bay is super incentivized to win this one, and they're playing a division rival, and the Saints never underestimate division rivals, but they're also playing for some incentives as far as bonuses and stuff like that. We got Houston versus Tennessee. That is another game that does not have any playoff implications. If Houston loses, it doesn't matter. They're still won the division. They're still keeping that number 4 seed. With San Francisco versus Arizona, this is one that doesn't matter either. San Francisco, obviously, Brock Purdy is out this week, so they're going to have Josh Dobbs in there. But there are some, maybe some pieces in that game we can look at to target. I know Kyler Murray has a rushing incentive in this one, so we do have some incentives in this one. Denver versus Kansas City is another huge one for playoff implications. If Denver loses, then they're knocked out of the playoffs, and Miami would get there if Miami wins. If Miami loses too, since the Bengals won last night, the Bengals would get into the playoffs. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping both Denver and Miami lose, but realistically, I think that either Kansas City is going to lose to Denver because they're playing all their backups, or Miami will lose to the Jets, or Miami will likely beat the Jets, but Miami is playing with Tyler Huntley again this week. Looks like Tua is going to be out yet again. They just can't rely on this guy down the stretch with Tua. He's just always hurt, unfortunately. But it seems the same playoff situation every year with these Dolphins. They're playing a backup at the most important games of the season. But let's put the Miami Dolphins as a win on that one. Let's put the Broncos as a win over the Chiefs. For the Chargers versus the Raiders, this is an important one for the Chargers. As you can see right now, with the Chargers winning, they're going to be facing the Texans in a dome in week, the first round of the wild card playoffs. So we got the wild card round. It'd be the Chargers versus the Texans as they currently have it. If the Chargers lose, then that's going to bump them into playing the Ravens. So they would be going from the Texans to playing the Ravens outdoors. So it'd be a hard bowl, but the problem is it'd be outside and it'd be against a much tougher team. So the Chargers are going to be motivated to win this one and take that number 5 seed instead. With the Rams Seahawks, this is also one that has playoff implications. The Rams are resting their starters against the Seahawks. The Seahawks have a lot of salary incentives to win this one, a lot of bonus potential to hit. So if the Seahawks lose to the Rams backups, that's going to knock the Rams into the number 3 seed where they would face off against Washington. This is where I don't understand why the Rams wouldn't want to be motivated to win this game, because they can either face Washington or they can face the Vikings or Lions, depending on who wins the Vikings game tonight. So the Rams are either going to be in the 3 seed or the 4 seed, depending on if they win. Right now, I have Seattle beating the Rams, so that would knock the Rams into facing either Minnesota or Detroit in a hugely important game that's going on tonight. So you can see kind of the motivated teams. We got the Lions and Vikings if you're on the FanDuel slate, but that is a night game, so that doesn't affect the DraftKings slate. We'll have a game script out later on for that one, breaking down the showdown aspects of that game. We got the Rams, who have a significance in their game, but they're not playing to win today. We got the Chargers versus the Raiders. That's going to be significant for the Chargers. We got the Dolphins with motivation to win against the Jets. And the Jets, it might be Aaron Rodgers' last game. So Aaron Rodgers might be motivated, and the Jets might be motivated to help him go out on a high note, even though there's been, supposedly internal issues between the team. But, maybe they come together to help Aaron Rodgers have a big game in his potential last game. Sauce Gardner is out in that one. Let's take a look actually at some of the injuries in this one. Injuries are going to be important as well. Let's go to the Jets. All right, so for the Jets, we're looking at looks largely healthy on the offense, except for obviously all these guys on IR. As far as the defense, let's see, Sauce Gardner is on IR, so he's out. Jalen Mills is out. You see some guys here, Zaire Barnes on IR, Chuck Clark IR, some of these other guys on IR. So you got a bunch of guys on the defense on IR. But, Quinnen Williams is playing. Hassan Reddick is playing. DJ Reed is playing. Michael Carter is playing. So it should be a difficult matchup. Technically, they haven't played as well on defense since they fired the coach there. But as far as the Miami side, the type of injuries that we're looking for on the Miami side, we got Tua doubtful. We got Tyreek and Jalen Waddle is questionable. Teron Armstead is questionable as well. That would not be good for the Tyler Huntley situation. Braxton Berrios, IR, a bunch of guys on IR. If we're looking at the defense, Calais Campbell is questionable. Anthony Walker is out. Javon Holland is questionable. You got some Bradley Chubb still out. Just a bunch of guys on IR. Still a chance though that this game could end up being something interesting on the Jets side. Let's go and check out the Chiefs since I just spoke about them. Chiefs are resting their starters. We got Mahomes doubtful. Pacheco is out. Kareem Hunt doubtful. So we're down to Samaje Perine and Carson Steele in this game. McCall Hardman, IR. bunch of guys on IR. We got Kelsey doubtful. Worthy and Hopkins have not been ruled, like doubtful or out, looks like. But I would guess that they're not going to play a ton. Jawan Taylor is out on the offensive line. As far as the defense, we got George Karlaftis is doubtful. Chris Jones doubtful. All their significant defensive players are doubtful in this one. Trent McDuffie, Justin Reed, Nick Bolton. Jalen Watson is still on IR. So this defense is just going to be a shell of its usual self, and its usual self hasn't really been playing well lately anyways. As far as the Broncos, looking at everybody is mostly healthy. So we're looking at a fully healthy, motivated Broncos playing against this Chiefs team. So not looking good for the chances of the Bengals to sneak into the playoffs as far as looking at this game. Maybe the Dolphins lose, but it's going to take a lot for the Broncos to lose. But I will say, like Carson Wentz starting, if they give Carson Wentz, Xavier Worthy, and DeAndre Hopkins, that's more weapons that he's had in a long time. So maybe we see something out of Carson Wentz today, motivated to audition at the very least. But Carson Wentz, he's shown upside. He was an MVP candidate a few years back, perfectly capable quarterback. We're looking at a veteran quarterback, coming into a situation in a good offense with good coaches. So Carson Wentz, don't write him off in this game. Let's see what other motivations. New Orleans Saints. Let's take a look at them for the sake of the Bucks game. Alvin Kamara is doubtful. Kendre Miller is out, so they're down to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jamal Williams. Derek Carr is out, so we're looking at Spencer Rattler. Juwan Johnson is questionable. Olave is on IR still. There was talk that Olave might be able to play, but I don't think it's trending that way. Taysom Hill is still on IR. Eric McCoy is on IR now, so that center makes a big difference as far as the rushing game. And generally, Derek Carr, basically went way down once Eric McCoy was injured earlier in the season. It makes a huge difference having McCoy in there. Ryan Ramczyk is out as well. We got on the defense, Pete Warner, Willie Gay's questionable, DeMarco Jackson on IR, a few guys on IR. And then on top of it, they traded their best cornerback to the Commanders. So, just should be a relatively easy game for the Bucks, but never take for granted against these division rivals. So, just keep that in mind. Atlanta has got the Panthers. Let's take a look at the Panthers here. On the Panthers side, Leggett is questionable. Miles Sanders might be back this week. Could be interesting for Miles Sanders. I know they got Raheem Blackshear ahead of him on the depth chart, but Miles Sanders has been out for a while. Other than that, we're looking at J.C. Horn is out. That's going to be big for the Falcons, but I'm not sure if Moody is playing in this one. We got a few guys out and on IR as far as the defense. So really banged up defense here for the Carolina Panthers. But Carolina's been playing really well recently, and I would not be surprised to see them put up a fight against the Falcons. The Falcons, we're looking at Michael Penix, who's been playing well recently. We got Darnell Mooney is questionable. Robert Burns is out on the offensive line. Other than that, we've got a bunch of guys on IR on defense for the Falcons. So maybe some depth issues there, but the Falcons should be good to go in this one. And Penix, like I said, has been playing pretty well recently. With the Chargers, let's take a look at the Chargers real quick. Chargers, we got Josh Palmer is out for this one. That's going to be significant because Jalen Reagor is out as well. Darius Davis. Darius Davis might be interesting today with those guys out. We've seen it a few times with Davis. He's been popping off. You see me talking about him a lot. Past couple years, just a speedster guy. He went to school with Quentin Johnson. I think they went to school together, but Darius Davis, I liked him last year when Quentin Johnson was shitting the bed. It was giving Darius Davis potential to have a breakout. He didn't really get it last year, but then he started getting like these kickoff return touchdowns, and he started getting people's attention. And now Darius Davis has had some success as a wide receiver on the team, and he's had a couple touchdowns this year. So Darius Davis in a situation with Josh Palmer out, the team playing for seeding. And we got Gus Edwards out on the running backs. That's good for Dobbins and Haskins. On the defense, Perryman is out. Santi Samuel Jr. still on IR. Eli Apple on IR. We got a bunch of guys on IR. So that is going to be a situation where, the Chargers, we could see some interesting plays on the Chargers side. So when I get into that, we'll make sure to take a good look at the Chargers in their game today. Chargers are playing. Who are they playing? Chargers are playing the Raiders. Let's take a look at the Raiders. We know that Max Crosby is on IR. Let's see what else is going on here. A bunch of guys on IR or suspended on the defense. So Nate Hobbs is questionable. Bennett is on IR. Missing a safety on IR. As far as their running back situation, Abdullah is out. Chargers have a pretty good run defense anyways, so it would be Madison this week. Abdullah, we've liked him the past couple weeks. Aiden O'Connell, the quarterback, looks good to go. So Chargers, I think, shouldn't have any more difficulty in this game despite missing Gus Edwards and Josh Palmer in this one. So some pretty significant injuries there. Let's go now to some motivators. We'll take a look at motivators real quick. I'm going to give a shout out to Sports Betting Dime on this one. They've got a nice chart laid out. Baker Mayfield, apart from needing to win that game to make the playoffs, he needs top 10 in passer rating. He's fourth currently. He needs passing yards, top 10. He is currently third in that. Touchdown passes, he's currently second. Completion percentage, he's currently, currently second in that. And yards per attempt, he's currently seventh. So he's got all his bonus incentives in there. Not too worried about Baker Mayfield today, but his incentive, apart from winning the game, is Mike Evans. Mike Evans needs 85 yards to reach 1,000 receiving yards. That's a big deal because Evans has hit 1,000 receiving yards in X amount of years straight ever since he got in the league, basically. So he needs to keep that streak going. He needs 85 yards for that on top of a bonus. And he needs 70 catches. He currently has 65, so he needs 5 catches there. We look at some of these other motivators. Cortland Sutton on a team that's in contention today. He needs 82 yards to hit his 1,065 receiving yards bonus. DeAndre Hopkins, we looked at him on that ESPN chart. Did not look like he was going to be sitting today, but it's possible that he is. But he needs 9 catches and 140 yards. So DeAndre Hopkins could be interesting as a run back in that Denver game. We got Derrick Henry. He played last night, obviously. Geno Smith needs 186 passing yards to hit his bonus. He needs 70% completion percentage. He's currently at 69 on that. He needs 9 wins. So he's got 9 wins. He needs to beat the Rams to get his 10th win. So a lot of incentive for Geno Smith. I believe DK Metcalf has some incentives too, but I'm not seeing it on this chart. J.K. Dobbins, he needs 58 rushing yards to hit 900. That's interesting for Dobbins. Josh Sweat, that's a sack thing. So the defense there on Josh Sweat, but he might be out this week with Philadelphia resting starters, but he needs 2 sacks. Mike Evans went over him. Tony Pollard needs 83 rushing yards, and he needs 2 touchdowns to hit a couple bonuses. Von Miller needs a sack. He's on Buffalo. Zach Ertz needs 9 catches and 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's interesting for Ertz. So we got some interesting plays there. Ertz stands out to me in a game that they need to win. Evans obviously stands out. Dobbins stands out. Geno, the Seahawks are not motivated to get Geno to those marks. If Geno gets hurt in this game, it's going to cost them a lot of money. He is a player that they need to decide if they want to keep or not. Geno's been playing really well, but the team, obviously, new coaching staff, maybe they're not interested in keeping Geno. Maybe they're looking to go in a different direction. They did not make the playoffs. They were competitive, but they did not make it. So Geno Smith, I think there's going to be a lot of popularity on him, but that might be a way that we can get a little bit different this week. Baker Mayfield, love the Tampa Bay stacks this week. Cortland Sutton, obviously going to be in play. Love the Denver stacks this week as well. So those are some directions and some looks at motivated players and teams that we can consider this week. So as far as the layout today, I've had some requests. Shout out to Corey in the chat to do things through the lineup HQ. So I'm thinking today, with the way that everything's shaking out with motivations and stuff like that, maybe it's a better opportunity for us to go ahead and use lineup HQ for our lineup building today. So let's go over to the first game. Going to go to the Falcons versus the Panthers. So let's take a look at some of these players. Bijan Robinson, he's in play this week. Drake London is going to be in play this week. Adam Thielen is going to be in play this week. As far as the matchup for Thielen, the Falcons have actually been pretty good against the slot, although they're allowing a 32% slot percentage. Shout out to Fantasy Points for that stat. They're only allowing 10.2 DraftKings points a game to the slot position, though. So Thielen may have a little bit more of a difficult matchup this week. The Falcons have been more vulnerable to wideouts. They've been allowing 32 DraftKings points a game to the wideout position. That is interesting to me. But let's make sure that we get Thielen in on this one. Leggett, questionable. Keep an eye on Leggett's status. The guy that's interesting is also going to be Jalen Coker. Let me check and see what kind of routes he gets. Coker, he's 72% in the slot, so he's got that same kind of a more difficult matchup. Leggett is going to be the interesting run back this week if he's healthy. So keep an eye on Leggett's status. Jalen Coker, let's put him in our player pool. Let me look up Leggett real quick, see if there's been any updates on him. I want to know if he is on the which side of questionable he's on. I'm not seeing any recent updates on his playing status, so I'm not really sure what the side of questionable that he's on. But Leggett, if he's healthy today, he's going to make a good run back for us on that Atlanta game. If you want to put some Atlanta players, David Moore, let's see what kind of snap share he's been getting recently. David Moore had a couple good games there when players were hurt, but maybe not so much when the players are fellow wide receivers are healthy. Thielen had a 40% snap share. Moore had only 15% snap share. Leggett had 32, and Coker had a 41% snap share. So those are really the guys that I'm interested in. I don't think we need to go as thin as David Moore this week. Let's look at running backs in this game. Blackshear, saw it on that chart. He's likely the starter. But the Falcons, not a defense that I want to target with my running backs. The Panthers, on the other hand, are giving up 29 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. As far as the quarterbacks, I think both quarterbacks are going to be in play. I like Bryce Young, how he's been playing lately, and I like Michael Penix. As far as the tight ends, Kyle Pitts is looking at a good matchup with the Falcons giving up the Panthers giving up 15.3 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. So a game with some motivations. So we got a bunch of players from that game that we're able to put into our lineups. Defenses, I don't think we need to go to defense in this one. There's going to be other spots for that. So let's move on to the next game. We got Washington, Dallas, another game. Let me check and see what Washington's motivation is here. Let's go back to this playoff simulator here. Washington, if they lose, they could get knocked down to play the Eagles. Not necessarily a bad thing. Playing a division rival in the playoffs, the one that they played well, but I think it really doesn't. It's not an advantage to play the Bucks over the Eagles for the Commanders. So, I'm not really sure how motivated that they're going to be to win their game this week. Let's see here. Let me see if I can see some other news on the Commanders. Okay, so the Cowboys have cut Ezekiel Elliott, so that's going to make Rico Dowdle significant in this one. Yeah, so I'm not really sure like how motivated like Washington's going to be in this one, but I believe that they are still playing their starters. So let's put Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin in our player pool. Let's get Rico Dowdle in there. Not interested in Cooper Rush. We might see some Trey Lance today. As far as the running backs, let's go ahead and let's see here. Yeah, Dallas has given up 24 DraftKings points a game to the running back position, so we can put Brian Robinson in our playing pool. Let's keep those other guys out. I don't think we need to go that thin. Brandon Cooks, basically the only receiver on Dallas right now, the only competent receiver. Let's go to Dallas and look at their depth chart. We got Prescott and Lamb are on IR. So we're looking at Cooks, Tolbert, and Turpin. I like Turpin. Turpin might be interesting. Let's see. Washington, they've been better with their pass defense. They used to be a target for us early in the season, but as far as their current state, they've actually been better. Let's see here. Turpin, I'm going to get an idea here of what kind of matchup he's looking at. Turpin has been the main slot receiver. Okay, so he's the slot receiver now that CeeDee Lamb is out, and we got some injuries to this team. So Washington has been allowing 33% target rate to slot receivers. Shout out again, fantasy points. They've only been allowing 10.7 DraftKings points a game to the slot, but let's get Turpin in there. I think I already got him in there. No, there he is. Turpin. I like Turpin this week. And Cooks. Not really interested in Cooks. Not really interested in this game overall. So let's stick with that. Ertz incentivized. We saw it. Let's get him in there. Not really interested in anyone else. I think we can get the Commanders defense in this one. So let's move on to the next game. Looking at the Chicago Bears versus the Green Bay Packers. Now, this is another one I believe has significance for the Packers. Let's go back to our simulator. Right now, I got the Packers beating the Bears. If they lose, doesn't affect them. If they lose and Washington loses, that would keep Washington. If they win and Washington loses, that would bump them into the 6th seed. So there are implications there for Green Bay. Not sure. I mean, I think for Green Bay, they'd rather face Tampa Bay than the Eagles. The Eagles' defense is pretty stout. Washington, being a division rival, it's not as big a deal. But for Green Bay, I think that it would be a pretty big deal for them to face the Bucks as opposed to the Eagles. So they'll be motivated to win this game. So as far as the matchups, looking at Green Bay allowing 15.5 DraftKings points a game, or Chicago allowing 15.5 DraftKings points a game to the slot. They're allowing 12.7 to the tight end and 25 DraftKings points a game to running backs. Josh Jacobs has talked about how he's not going to get a lot of carries this week, which might make Emmanuel Wilson interesting. Let's put Emmanuel Wilson in our player pool here. Let's see. So the Packers are looking to rest their starters, according to Evan Silva. So that's that might not be the game that I thought it was. All right, so let's skip that one. Let's put Wilson in there though, because they have the situation with. So they got the situation with the running back advantage, but I do think that I would rather fade Chicago this week. They have not looked good, and facing off against Green Bay's defense, I don't like that at all. Let's go here back to the injury tab. We'll get an idea of what ESPN has people at. Christian Watson and Romeo Dubs is questionable. Quay Walker is out. Evan Williams is out. Uh, Jair Alexander still on IR. As far as the Bears look relatively healthy apart from Elijah Hicks out in this one. Jaquan Brisker is on IR. But otherwise, most of their players look relatively healthy. Let's see. Let's check out the Bears incentives. All right, so the Bears Caleb Williams is 9 sacks away from becoming the most sacked quarterback in a single season. And that that's pretty much the biggest thing for the Bears right now. So, not interested in that game. Let's go to Jacksonville, Indy. This is a game where the players, like, we haven't heard anything about resting these guys. I'm gonna take a look and see what the injury situation is. On the Colts side, Anthony Richardson is out. Defense looks relatively healthy. They they were playing decent for a large part of the season, but they're not making the playoffs. And they're facing off. Jesus Christ. All right, so they are not facing. Who are they facing? They're facing Jacksonville this week. So let's go to Jacksonville. Mac Jones starting with one guy I'm interested in is Brenton Strange this week. Brenton Strange with the Colts are giving up the second most tight ends or touchdowns to the tight end position. So I like Brenton Strange this week. All these other guys on IR going to give him a bigger target. We got Evan Ingram in particular on IR. Walker Little on the offensive line is out. A few other guys out here. So Brenton Strange is a guy that I'm interested in this game in particular. I do think that this is a game that could shoot out a little bit. Let's check and see something here. I think it could be like a sloppy shootout situation. Trying to see if there's any incentives in this game. Not really any incentives other than like two teams, like division rivals playing against each other. That's usually pretty good incentives for these meaningless games. Trying to get an idea if there's anyone else with incentives. Let's see. See if we can find some Colts here. Not really seeing any other specific incentives on this one. So, this one is a game that, if you think that these teams are going to go all out in this one, then it'll make them interesting. But we can go ahead and let's get Flacco. I think I'd prefer Flacco over Mac Jones. I'm not really interested in Mac Jones. Jonathan Taylor. Let's see the individual matchups in this one. Best matchups are the running backs. Both running backs have good matchups. Jonathan Taylor, the Jags have been giving up 27.4 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. Basically, everyone on the Jags or everyone on the Colts is in play. Jags defense is giving up top 10 to every position, tight end included. So Colts on the other side have been giving up most points to they've been most vulnerable to running backs and tight ends. So I like the running backs in both sides of these. But ETN and Bigsby, that situation has been a little bit weird. Let's look at what ETN has done. Has not these guys just haven't done anything. Good matchup, but not really into going there with those guys. I think I'd focus on the passing game. We got Thomas, Downs, Pittman and Pierce all going to be in play. Even Adonai Mitchell might be in play. Let's see what kind of snaps he's been getting lately with the Colts. Adonai Mitchell. Geez, he only got a 7% snap share last week. Not sure what happened there. Let's see if I can see if there's like an injury situation here. Let's look at the Colts. I don't see any injuries on Adonai Mitchell. Just did not get any work last week for whatever reason. On the Jacksonville side, though, can maybe take a look at some of these secondary players. All right, so Parker Washington is slot receiver. Josh Reynolds. Those guys have not so great matchups. Indy's been a lot better against the pass than they have against running backs and tight end. So maybe Brenton Strange would be my run back in this one, apart from Brian Robinson, who obviously can be pretty matchup proof. I think if I was going for a defense in this one, I'd go with the Colts, but I really don't want a defense in this game. Let's go with the Buffalo, New England. This is a team that's Buffalo that's resting their starters. Looks like Trubisky is going to be playing against Drake May. With this one, it's more of a motivation of the coaching staff. The coach wants to win another game, so he doesn't look terrible, but he already looks pretty bad. Ownership will probably want the higher pick, higher draft pick, so they probably want to lose this game. But Buffalo's playing backups, so not really sure I'm interested in this game. Ray Davis could be interesting if they're playing backups. Let's put Ray Davis in the player pool. Wide receivers likely to be resting. For the tight end position, wide receivers actually on the New England side, the Bills are giving up 19.8 DraftKings points a game to the slot position. So that is going to make Demario Douglas interesting, but let me make sure that Douglas is actually playing. Yeah, Demario Douglas will be interesting today. Let's get him in the player pool. Let's take a look at the running back position. Ramondre got benched for. I just don't trust this running back situation, but it's a good matchup for running backs. I just don't trust it. Patriots defense might be interesting in this one, playing against backups. They're playing against Mitch Trubisky. So let's get the Patriots defense in there just to have them in there. Gets us a cheap sub 3K defense in there too. So let's get out of this game. Let's go to the Giants versus Philadelphia. Giants are more motivated in this one than the Eagles are. Let me take a look and see if I can get some ideas on motivations. All right. Saquon, they're not going to go for the rushing title for him. He's going to be on the bench. So that could make it interesting for Kenny Gainwell. New York's given up 25 DraftKings points a game to the running back position, or Shipley. I wonder if Shipley would be in play this week. Let's put Shipley in there. Yeah, Shipley is in play. He's 16% owned too. Let's get Shipley in there. Malik Neighbors needs 6 more total targets to break the NFL rookie record. So we'll get him in there. He also needs 2 receptions to break the rookie wide receiver record. And he is 4 receptions behind fellow rookie tight end Brock Bowers, who owns the NFL rookie record for receptions in a single season by any position. So let's get Malik Neighbors in there. He's going to be motivated. They'll be giving him a lot of targets. Drew Lock played well last week, but I don't like these guys against the Eagles defense. So I'll just stick with Neighbors there. Wandale got a lot of targets last week as well. Not really into Wandale in this one necessarily. Actually, I take that back. Eagles have been giving up 34% of the targets to slot receivers. Let's get Wandale in there too. Let's look at the next game here. We got New Orleans versus Tampa Bay. This is one that has significance. Let's get Mike Evans in there. Let's get Jalen McMillan in there. Let's run it back with, man, there's really, I think Valdez-Scantling has some sort of an incentive. Let's see. Valdez-Scantling needs 9 receptions for a 250K bonus, 172 receiving yards for a 250K bonus, 1 touchdown for a 250K bonus, and 3 touchdowns for a 250K bonus. Let's get Valdez-Scantling in there. Look at that ownership, 1.6%. So that could be a sneaky play for us. Let's get Valdez-Scantling in there as our run back. And Pettis has been playing well recently. What did he get? How many targets did he get last week? 4 targets, 7 targets, 5 targets. Let's get Pettis in there as a potential run back. And I think that's about it that I like for the wide receivers. Let's see. As far as other players with good matchups, I've done the Juwan Johnson thing several times and it never pans out. So I'm going to stay away from it. But he does have a good matchup if you like the tight ends from the Saints in this one. But I'm going to stay away from it. I like Bucky Irving in this one. Rachaad White could even be in play in this one. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, min salary. Let's just get him in there. The Bucks are only allowing 21 DraftKings points a game to the running back position, though, so keep that in mind. As far as the defense, I take the Bucks D in this one. You know what? In that Giants-Eagles game, let's put that Eagles defense in there against Drew Lock. Let's go to Houston, Tennessee. That's our last game on the slate. Wait, which one did they put me in here? They put me on the 1 p.m. only. Jesus. All right. Stand by. Oh, no, they got me in the real one. All right. Good. Houston, Tennessee. Houston motivated in this one. But let me check how motivated they are. The head coach has well, they're not motivated, but the head coach has said that, they're not resting starters, but I don't really trust it. I don't trust it in this one, so I'm just gonna go with, Pollard, who we saw has that motivation in the, running game, with touchdowns and whatnot. So let's get Pollard in there. As far as defenses, maybe we put the Texans D in there. Oh, you know who has, incentive is gonna be, Deontay Johnson. Maybe we put Deontay in there. He needs to get right with this team, before the playoffs. So maybe they'd be incentivized to at least have him, do some stuff. Let's get Ridley in there. All right, let's move on to the next game here. Let's go with the San Francisco, Arizona game. Now, this is one we see these quarterbacks always do well in the system. So I like Josh Dobbs in this one. Kyler Murray has that rushing incentive in this one, so he could be in play. Isaac Guerendo is going to be in play. Michael Carter would be in play as well. Juwan Jennings has some salary incentives, so I'm going to put him in there. I'm going to put Pearsall in there too. I liked him a lot, and Showdown had him as the captain option in my comment section, and he went off for us. Going to put him in there. I would imagine he's going to continue getting work. Trey McBride, I think we can leave him in there too. I don't really like Marvin Harrison, but maybe they want him to go out on a high note, so let's just put him in there. As far as the defense, Cardinals D, I think I like better than the 49ers D in this one. Let's put them in there. Kansas City versus Denver. Talked about this one. Denver highly motivated, so let's get a lot of Denver guys in this one. Let's get Bo Nix. He's going to be in play this week. 5% owned. I don't know if I'm believing these ownerships. With the running backs, let's get McLaughlin in there. He's been kind of taking over that lead role recently. As far as wide receivers, let's get Sutton in there. Let's get Vele in there. They have a good matchup against Chiefs slot defense, and they're motivated. If he's really at 0.19 ownership, then that's a great situation for us. Let's get Mims in there. Hopkins, I talked about his incentives. I'm gonna get him in there as a potential run back. For tight ends, could be a good situation for Noah Gray, but I don't know how much Noah Gray is going to be used in this one. I'm going to stay away from tight ends. And as far as the defenses, let's get the Broncos defense in there. Let's move on to the Rams and Seahawks. Let's look at the quarterbacks. Geno Smith, I don't really trust the situation, but if you trust him, you put him in the player pool. I think there's other quarterbacks I like more, but Geno is motivated this week. Blake Corum is going to get some run this week against a Seattle defense that is giving up 22.7 DraftKings points a game. Seattle has been better against the run, but they were bad against them at some point during the season. Seattle's tight ends have a good matchup. DK Metcalf, I would be more interested in keeping in my lineup this week. But let's get Smith and Jigba and DK in there. Let me check and see if those guys have any motivation. Smith and Jigba needs 4 receptions to tie Tyler Lockett's Seahawks record of 100 receptions. And He needs 182 receiving yards to tie DK Metcalf's Seahawks record. So DK Metcalf needs 61 receiving yards to hit 1,000 on the season. So that's significant for both those receivers. So let's keep them in there. Tight end, I don't really like tight ends in this game. Seahawks, Rams defenses, not really. Well, let's put the Seahawks. They're sub 3K in there. So let's add them in there. Let's go on to the next game. Chargers versus Vegas. This is one that I said was significant. Ladd McConkey, let's get him in there. Let's get Brock Bowers in there. Let's get Dobbins in there and Herbert. Let's get Myers in there. This is a division game too, keep in mind. Not a fan of Madison. Let's take a look and see what the motivations are in this one. All right, Brock Bowers, 4 receptions ahead of fellow rookie Malik Neighbors. They're chasing. Those guys are going to be dueling for that record today. So I might have Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers as kind of a core there. He's 9 receptions away from breaking the all-time tight end record set by Zach Ertz in 2018. Chargers running backs. Dobbins needs 58 for 150K bonus, 208 for 150K bonus. So he's got some incentive. Jacoby Myers needs 96 receiving yards to hit 1K on the season. So we can leave Myers in there if I haven't already. Nope, got him in there. As far as the Chargers side, let's get Quentin Johnson in there too. Darius Davis, it's talked him up already. Let's get him in there. Tight end, I got Brock Bowers in there already. Defense, I'm going to go ahead and put the Chargers defense in the player pool. And that is who I like in that game. Miami versus the Jets. This is the last game. This is also, like I said, an important game for playoff implications. The best matchup on the Raiders, by the way, would be Jacoby Myers. Runs 35% of his routes in the slot. That's where the Chargers are giving up 16.9 DraftKings points a game. And the running back position, the Chargers have been giving up 24.8 DraftKings points a game. So Madison might be a little bit interesting if you want to go there. I do not. I'm going to put for this game, the Dolphins and the Jets. The Tyler Conklin's going to have the best matchup, 13 DraftKings points a game. But as we saw, Conklin is questionable. The slot receivers on Miami have a good matchup. Tyreek's been running 35% of his routes in the slot. So he might be the point of interest for Miami this week if you want any Miami guys in your lineups. For this game, I might just assume that Aaron Rodgers' teammates are going to come around for, like, he's legendary player. I'm going to put Devontae in there especially, but Garrett Wilson as well. I think despite their differences, they're not going to want to make Aaron Rodgers look bad on the way out. As far as tight ends, I think Jonnu's going to be in play. They don't have the best matchup, but Jonnu, how's he done lately with Huntley? He's been getting a lot of points. Look at that, like 11, 12, 19.8, 13, 24. Jonnu is going to be in play this week. All right, so we got our players here. Let's go ahead and see what the optimal puts out for us. All right, so the optimal would have Josh Dobbs with Michael Carter and Bijan Robinson, Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers, Juwan Jennings, Brock Bowers, Cortland Sutton, and the Seahawks. Not really, not a huge fan of that one. If you got Josh Dobbs, if you got Myers and Brock Bowers in there, you probably want. Let's see. Let's see if I'm leaving anyone out. I'm going to look at ownership percentage, see if I'm. Oh, Baker. How did I not get Baker in there already? Did I go over that Tampa game? Let me make sure I got everybody I need in that Tampa game. Payne Durham had an injury earlier in the week, so I'm not sure what his situation is. All right, let me try this again with my optimizer, see if it gives me something different. All right, so 150 lineups I'm going to build. Let's go ahead and take a look at these projections here. All right, I'm going to put Baker Mayfield at 25. I don't think that's out of his range. Look at all these point totals he's had. This is an important game. He's motivated to get Evans the ball. I'm going to put him at 25. I'm going to bump up Bo Nix to 22. Penix, I've liked how he's played lately. I think 17 is a fair projection for him. And Rodgers, I'm going to bump Rodgers up to. I'm going to bump him up a little bit here. He had a 30-week and a 20-week. He had 20 DraftKings points last time he faced off against Miami. I'm going to go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt and give him 20 again. Flacco. All right. So there we go. We got Baker. If I got Baker in there, I want to make sure I'm having rules here with Buck stacks. I want to have Bucky. I want to have Evans. And I want to have McMillan. I want to have at least two of those guys in every lineup. Let me look at the Bucks injury situation because we're going to want some more Tampa Bay options here. Let's share this tab instead. All right, so Sterling Shepard is questionable. Kate Otten is doubtful. Payne Durham does not have an injury designation, so we can put him in. And we can put Raheem Jarrett in there too. Let's go ahead and go to our player pool. Excluded players. Let's go ahead and get Jarrett in there. And let's go ahead and get Payne Durham in there too. All right, so we got a couple more players on the Bucks in our player pool. Let's go back to those groups and get Jarrett and Payne in there. So we want two out of those three guys on the conditional player of Baker Mayfield in the lineup. Let's go back to player pool. Let's take a look at our wide receiver projections. I like that projection for Evans. Thomas Jr., I don't really like the matchup that much. But he's just been on a tear. He's going to be super owned, though, and there's not really any motivators that I saw. Let's see, Brian, this week 18 incentives. Yeah, no incentives for Colts game in general. Yeah, I'm gonna bump down Thomas in this one. Actually, 18 is fair. That is fair projection. Malik Neighbors, I think that's a fair projection there. See if there's any guys that I liked that are not necessarily. I'm gonna put JSN to. I'm gonna give him 19. He's been playing really well recently, and he is chasing a couple records there. So I'm gonna give him 19. That seems fair based on what I've seen out of him recently. Um, Pittman and McLaurin can leave those alone. Thielen, Quentin Johnson, Jalen McMillan. Let's bump up Jalen McMillan. He's been playing well recently. I'm gonna get him up to 17 or at least 15. Let's get him up to 15. I just want enough to get him in some decent exposure to him. Let's get Mims up more. Mims has been way more involved recently. Let's put him at 11. Valdez Scantling, basically the only guy worth starting on the Saints this week, but he has not done well with Spencer Rattler. Once Derek Carr was out, looks like he basically hasn't done much. It's going to be hard to find a run back for this game. But let's put Valdez Scantling. Let's bump him up to 10.5. Pearsall, I like Pearsall. Let's get Pearsall to 15. He's facing off against Arizona, who's been giving up 13.9 to the slot, and that's where Pearsall lines up the most. You know what? Let's get him up to 17. Pearsall is a heat seeker this week, so let's keep him high on our list. I like him better than Juwan Jennings, even though Juwan Jennings has the incentives this week. So I want him to be a little bit ahead of Juwan Jennings. Maybe, yeah, a little bit ahead of Juwan Jennings. Pittman, McLaurin. Anyone else I want to bump up? Turpin. Let's bump up Turpin. Let's bump him up to 9. And Devon Vele I liked. Let's bump him up to 10. Let's see Vele's recent performances. Yeah, I think 10 is fair for Vele in this one. How did he do against the Chiefs last time you played him? He had 13 last time. Let's bump him up. Let's bump him up to 12. Let's live dangerously on that one. Raheem Jarrett, 0.85. Don't really like that projection, but I think he's going to have a little bit more than that. Let's get him up to. Let me check a different projection. I don't know if I'm buying that one. Stand by. My internet is not the best. Yeah, my internet is acting up super slow on this. Maybe it's just a site I'm trying to get my projections from. All right, so All right. So if I'm looking at the highest owned guys on the slate, as far as running backs, Michael Carter, Bucky Irving, and Bijan are going to be the highest owned. As far as wide receivers, highest owned is going to be Thomas Jr., Evans, Drake London. Let's see, Raheem Jarrett. Let me see what his projection is. Yeah, I don't see many sites having very good projection for him in general. So let's keep him where he's at. Darius Davis. I think we can keep these guys where they're at. Let's see where that takes us for an optimal. All right, so that gets us Baker Mayfield. Still not getting Mike Evans into my lineups for whatever reason. So let's bump up Evans. Evans is 8K, so that's probably why. So let's bump him up to 25. And let's start building these lineups. See what it gives us. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do my projections. Stop that. I forgot to do my other positions. Let's go to tight end. Bowers. I think that's probably a fair projection for Bowers. McBride, not as high as McBride. Guy got his first touchdown of the season last week. Ertz, I like Ertz this week. Let's bump him up to 12. Strange, I like as well. Let's bump him up to 13. I think he gets a touchdown. Last game, he got a touchdown. How many points did he have? Where's touchdowns on this damn thing? Passing touchdowns, touches, rushing touchdowns. All right. So last time you got a touchdown was 12 points. So yeah, I think that's a fair projection for Brenton Strange. If I think he's going to get a touchdown, check out my underdog short over on YouTube. I have him as my heat seeker in my short video. So you want to check that out. 66 times our money if we win. Use the promo code SEEK, SEEK, for a 50% deposit match up to $1,000 over on Underdog. You want to do playoff best ball too on Underdog. It's pretty sick. So that's good for tight ends. Let's look at running backs here. Bijan at 24. That's probably a fair projection against Carolina. Bucky Irving. That's fair. Any sneaky guys that I wanted to get in there, I think that's pretty fair for him. Yeah, no one I really have a feel for there that I'd want to bump up or whatever. Let's look at some of these excluded defenses. I just, for a lot of these, I just go with ownership. See if I'm missing anything. Packers at 3.4K and Bills at 3.1. All right, so as far as these other teams, Baker Mayfield. Bo Nix is another guy I wanted to make sure that I'm getting stacks with. Let's go to groups here. Let's go with Denver stacks. Probably want two guys at least, or at max with Bo Nix. Let's get Vele in this one. Let's get Mims. And let's get Sutton. Let's put Bo Nix in here. For a player pool, it might try not to get Bo Nix. I'm going to put it 25% for him. I want 50% of Baker, so 75% on those guys. You know what? Let's get Rodgers in there too. And if I'm going Rodgers, why does this one keep changing on me? If I'm going Rodgers, then I want Adams and Wilson both in that. Because I think that's really the only way that that a guy like Rodgers can be an optimal option for us this week. Let's go with 25% there. So this is only going to spit out Mayfield, Nix, and Rodgers lineups for us. I think those are the guys that I have the most interest in based on going over the slate. So let's go ahead and build 150, see what it gets us. Rodgers, 1.7% ownership, supposedly. Yeah, Dobbs and Mayfield will be the highest owned. I don't care with Mayfield. Just too much incentive in that game. Bo Nix is way under owned in this one. He's under 10%. And we've seen his upside. And I do like Dobbs, but I think he's too high at 17%. 4K though, like if a lot of people are building with that cheap quarterback option, then it's going to be good for us to go in a bit of a different direction. All right, guys, I was sharing the wrong thing. So let me go ahead and recap where we're at with our projections. I bumped up Baker, Nix, and Rodgers, and I changed my percentages to 25, 25, and 50. For my running backs, I didn't bump anyone up. I don't have any leans on any running backs this week. For the wide receivers, I bumped up Evans and Jigba, Pearsall, and McMillan, as well as Vele, Mims, Valdez Scantling, and Turpin. For the wide receiver position, I bumped up, or for the tight end position, I bumped down Trey McBride, bumped up Strange, and I bumped up Ertz. For defense, this is where I'm standing right now. I got Chargers. I got a whole bunch of defenses. I don't really care about defense. For my groups that I made, I've got 3 groups. I've got a rule 1 to 2 of these Denver guys, Sutton, Mims, and Vele, when I'm using Bo Nix as my quarterback. For my Jets stacks, I got Adams and Garrett, both for my Rodgers stacks. And for my Tampa Bay stacks, I've got Evans, Bucky, Jalen, Payne Durham, Raheem Jarrett. I need 2 to 3 of those guys in every one of my Baker Mayfield lineups. So those are the rules. Now let's check out the lineups it gave us. All right, so Baker, McMillan, and Evans. I like that. We got Smith and Jigba. We got Brent and Strange, Pearsall, the Seahawks D. I like that lineup. We got Baker to McMillan and Evans, Carter and Bijan on that one. Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, Brent and Strange. Let's see what we got for our exposures here. So we got the exposures I was looking for. They even tried to force Kyler Murray in there for me. We got Michael Carter, Bijan, Bucky, Garendo, Shipley, and Edwards-Helaire as my exposure to Running backs. For wide receivers, it gave us 99% Pearsall, 85 with that bump. Keep in mind, I gave that big bump in salary. 4% owned, Pearsall, big bump. Playing the slot, that's the weakest spot against Arizona's defense. So he's got the best matchup. We got Evans at 85%, Smith and Jigba, McMillan, Sutton, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Juwan Jennings, etc. Devon Vele. I want to bump him up because I want more exposure to Vele. For tight ends, I got Strange, Ertz, and Payne Durham as my only tight end exposure. And for my defenses, it looks like it's favoring the Seahawks for me with Broncos, Texans, Bills, Eagles, etc. Let's take a look and see if we can get a look at some of these Rodgers stacks. I'm interested in seeing what the Rodgers stacks look like. Rodgers with Carter, Bucky Irving, and Mike Evans. We got Pearsall, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Brenton Strange. Kind of like that one. We got Rodgers, Adams, and Wilson with Bucky and Evans, and Michael Carter in this one as well. I think they just changed out the defense in that one. Looks like they're doing that for most of these Rodgers ones. So that gives you an idea what they gave me for Rodgers. Baker's the one I'm obviously mainly interested in, and Nix is another one. Rodgers is just for maybe some milli maker opportunity. Nix I got stacked with Cortland Sutton in this one. Thought I had him. Thought I had a rule where I wanted him stacked with at least two guys. Well, Nix has the rushing upside, so it doesn't need to be two guys. Let me bump up Vele and see what that does for me. Devon Vele. Where is he? There he is. Let's bump him up to 14. I want to see if that gives us more exposure to him. All right, guys, this will be the last one. I get going on building my own lineups. This is why I don't do these ones. It's taking me up over an hour and a half to record this show, and I'm pushing it on lock here. All right, so we got looking at the Bo Nix. This one gave me Vele. Now it's pushing out Sutton, so I probably have to put a group rule. Or I gotta bump up Sutton too here. Let's bump him up to 20. I don't want to go much higher than 20. This is where you get the tweaking situation with your lineup builder. You can tweak it so that you start getting the results that you like more. But at the same time, you want to be careful because you don't want to. You may want to just bump it up if you have a quarterback stack that you're looking to do. That's where you might want to bump it up a little bit more. Still gonna be Bo Nix with only one receiver, so I probably have to make a rule when I probably have to just do my Bo Nix stacks separately, where I would go in there and change that group rule to Bo Nix, two receivers for every lineup. But right now you're just seeing one. But let's get rid of that and just look at the general ones that they like. Still sticking with mainly what I had earlier. So I like that with Baker. A lot of good lineups here with Baker. This is much more to my liking of lineups that I'm getting. It's stuck in two Kyler Murrays in there too. So that's what we're dealing with. Make sure to hit that like button. Give me the 30 likes to put out my favorite plays in the comment section, and make sure to hit the subscribe button. I need to get to 1,600 subscribers, and make sure to check out my underdog stuff. All right, guys, good luck in week 18. Hopefully this helps you, and let's crush it this week.